Well, hey guys, my name is Kelsey Wingert. I am here on behalf of LakePoint Sports, also the Youth Sports Summit. We had an incredible event a few months ago. We hope that you join us for this next event. We were able to learn so much, talk a lot about youth sports, travel sports. If you're familiar with LakePoint, one of my favorite places in all of Georgia, it's a 1,300-acre sports-focused mixed-use campus. It's located along 75 in Emerson. It's incredible. Check it out. They do all sports: baseball, basketball, volleyball, soccer, lacrosse, gymnastics, cheer. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. But today we are here to talk more about social listening. This is something that we had gone into a little bit during the Youth Sports Summit, and we're going to take a deeper dive today. And joining me is Doug Kimmel. And Doug, I want to introduce you. You could tell us a little bit about Bovitz and Ion Marketing Group and what we're going to be discussing today.
Sure. Well, thanks, Kelsey. I appreciate it. And I happen to have the pleasure of being down there and seeing the facility for the first time several months ago, and pretty darn impressive. I wish they had those facilities when I was growing up and playing youth sports. But Ion and Bovitz, so we essentially smashed together a activation agency with a research and insights company. So today we'll talk much more about the research and insight side of things through a social listening process and a tool. And really the whole goal is to use that tool and artificial intelligence to learn more about youth sports travel, and give the partners of LakePoint and LakePoint themselves a really good sense of who that audience is, so that when they're out there working with partners, they can better understand how to market to them, engage with them, communicate with them. And so we'll utilize social listening to do so. To oversimplify it, social listening is taking a huge comb and combing the internet and social channels and basically listening to what people are talking about. So we engage in a query to define who we're talking about and compare them to a broader population to see the differences, to then allow LakePoint to understand who their audience is, and then for them to engage with partners and do a much deeper dive. The tool is unbelievable. We then go off and do custom research with brands to get a better understanding of how to kind of engage with them. But for today, it's kind of at a high level of, what we're doing as a third party to really help LakePoint help their partners do a better job of building programs. So thrilled to be here once again, and thrilled to go back later in the fall to be live and in person to do a little bit more on this. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So like I said, we learned a little bit in that last summit. The summit this year is going to be Monday, September 19th. 2022. Obviously, it's at the LakePoint Sports Champions Center. But when you're talking about the information that you guys are able to get, I mean, I'm able to look at the full report, and if anybody watching, you're able to access the full report, we'll give you the contact of how you can get it. It is incredible what you guys are able to learn. I mean, everything from the social media channels they're using, the apps that they use, the brands that they like, habits. I mean, the full report is one of the most fascinating things. As someone who, I'm reading through this report and I'm like, yep, that's me. Yep, I watch Netflix. I do all those things. So this update is just a part of the Sports Summit series of events with the goal of helping brands understand and better connect with the youth travel sports audience. So just what is social listening? I know you kind of explained it there, but just layman's terms, what is it?
Yeah, so at least in terms of what we're doing for LakePoint, it's essentially utilizing a tool with artificial intelligence, and we have research analysts who go in and essentially go find all the kind of differentiators and characteristics of the youth sports travel audience and compare them to the general population, so that we can come back and we can share that information with LakePoint and say, well, they're predominantly males, their ages are such, their household incomes, their jobs and professions, their marital status, what they do for a living, typical demographic stuff. But where the tool really is fun is when it starts diving into, and you alluded to it, of what are they doing online, at least, which gives us a good indication what they're doing offline, because they're posting and they're commenting. And we get as far as, well, what brands influence them? If they're sports fans, what are they watching? Who are they following? So call it from a brand perspective or an influencer perspective. To your point, like, what networks are they tuning into during the season, and really the whole goal is to allow LakePoint to turn around the full report, give it to their partners. We can then work alongside of them to do a deeper dive, because we're only kind of at the surface here.
An even deeper dive?
Yeah,
This
even
is
deeper than this.
amazing.
I mean, because if you think of LakePoint, you rattled off all the different sports that they get involved in on the campus. So a baseball family is different than a volleyball family or a basketball family. So if I am one of the partners and I want to reach youth sports families and individuals on different seasons or through different sports, well, I probably have to understand who they are before I build a campaign to reach them, engage with them, and try to introduce them to my brand, my product, whatever it might be. So that's what this tool is for. And it guides us, right? It tells us that this audience is really influenced by brands, right? So, well, what does that mean? Well, known brands in certain categories are going to resonate with this audience. They're much more diligent and deliberate when they make decisions, right? The interesting part about some of this is they spend less time on social channels than the general population. And you could surmise, Kelsey, that, well, that's because they're traveling around with their kids in youth sports activities. And again, so it allows us to get into what brands they like, what they tune into, who they follow, their purchasing habits. We've got some stats in the information deck that says they're literally 4 or 5 times more likely to use credit cards than the general population. So if I'm a financial institution, I'm a bank, I'm a credit card issuer provider, I'm interested in youth sports because of that data point. And that's really what we're trying to arm the partners in LakePoint with, so they can get a better understanding of how to use data and insights to build programs to engage with the audiences that are very differentiated or segmented, so that they're smarter about how they're actually trying to engage these consumers to build loyalty around the brands, to drive transactions, et cetera. So it's really a business building tool that's really just kind of scratching the surface, if you would. But I mean, that's our goal. That's what we do for LakePoint in terms of the social listening activity.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see the social media networks that they use the most. I mean, I was surprised to see Instagram coming in last, but you referenced the credit card spending, and something that was on our information deck, which again, we can send anybody, we'll give you the contact information at the end where you can see this full report. But something they mentioned about the credit card spend is that people might be using the credit cards for airline points or for travel points. And that is exactly why I use my Delta Sky Miles Amex on everything. So it was just so cool reading through this, and it clicks. You're like, I do that, and I didn't even realize that. And you're in this segment of people. But I'm looking at some of these key metrics from February 2020, from February 20 of 21 to this year of February. So what are the main points from those key metrics that stand out the most to you?
Yeah, the main point, really is how passionate they are in terms of their sports related activities or habits, which doesn't surprise. I mean, this is youth sports travel, but when you start looking at, you mentioned Netflix and Disney and Amazon, and, so if I'm these media properties and entertainment properties, so youth sports becomes an interesting platform for me to market my product and reach an audience that hopefully subscribes to Netflix or Disney Plus. So again, it's just informing different categories of what's going on with this youth sports travel audience up against everything else that they can go look at if I'm a brand. So it starts to really pinpoint how I would approach building a plan. What are those personas that I would want to create my campaigns? How would I do my targeting and my paid media? How would I align with different properties or partners? So it's just a marvelous tool and technology that we have access to. And then again, what I said is it can be overwhelming. like, oh my gosh, you looked at it and you're like, wow, there's so much great stuff. Well, where the heck do I go from here? LakePoint has brought us in to help inform and then to be their partners to help dive into, better understand, analyze, and then work with some of their partner brands to dive into their business, which is what happened when I was down in Atlanta with KT Tape. The CEO and head of sales came up to me after the presentation when the two of us talked about this on stage and said, I need to understand what resonates with my target on social because I just want to be more efficient, more targeted. I want to understand how much I should spend, what kind of content I should put out there, how frequently, what channels. That's really the beauty of kind of us as a third party research and kind of activation agency aligning with a property like LakePoint for the sole purpose of helping their partners.
Well, I know we have to wrap things up, but I wanted to run through, I know, like I've mentioned, I wish we could get into the full report, but I did want to run through just some of the things that you learned in your study with LakePoint. I mean, we have findings on the digital and social media behavior, personality traits, brand influences. So really, I know you mentioned StubHub. We didn't mention College Game Day, but we know that's a big one, college football. Was there anything else with the digital and social media behavior and personality traits that you specifically wanted to point out for these people?
No, I think we got into some of them, what I'll call the over-indexing of, right, kind of the demographics. What I'd be excited to be is to share this full report so people can see, you know, how the demographics of the youth sports audience compares to the general pop. And then again, you got into it, you know, how do they differentiate with social behaviors, media habits, who do they follow versus general population? Again, it becomes a little bit overwhelming and endless. Where I would really love to go, you know, with the follow-ups with the team at LakePoint is to get involved with some of those partners, like I just mentioned, KT Tape. I know they just brought, you know, Publix on board, you know, they're working with Spalding. So like, how do we collectively get around a table and utilize this tool and other tools to help them build out their campaigns to not only leverage their partnership with LakePoint, a leader in youth sports, but also broader in terms of youth sports in general. But I think to answer your question, there's so much there. Oh, there you go. You got a friend that joined us.
We have a friend now. Go ahead, jump down, sister. She was so into this full report that she wanted to give her take on it too.
She heard me say Publix and got hungry.
She loves pub subs, man.
Right. But again, I think the purpose is there's so much great stuff that we want to provide that full report to the partners and then follow up and see how we can assist them alongside of LakePoint to build out their programs or further leverage their partnership.
Yeah, and the word that you used that was perfect is efficient, right? I mean, if you're trying to market your brand or your product or your company to people, having this information allows you to reach the people who are more receptive to what you're selling, and it makes it more efficient. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention?
No, the only other thing I'd say, and kudos to LakePoint, for doing this and understanding the industry that they're a leader in, and then having nuggets of information that they're wanting to bring to their partners and future partners in various categories. I mean, you don't see a lot of properties kind of proactively doing these types of things and bringing information to their partners so they can better do business, if you would, alongside of that property. That's a true partnership. It's less of a transaction. It's really a partnership. And that's beautiful to see from the lens, you know, kind of I occupied of being at the property side, being on the agency side, and now having a whole research division of our business. But yeah, no, I'm excited for the LakePoint team to share out the report with the partners, to follow up with the summit, you know, coming in the fall. And just to be a resource to be supportive in general with our research capabilities and our analysis.
So again, that next summit is going to be on September 19th of this year. We've mentioned the full report. If you do want a copy of the full report or you want more information on the 2022 Youth Sports Summit, you can email partnerships@lakepointsports.com, or you can visit lakepointsports.com/contact to make your request. And Doug, I can't thank you enough for your time. This is fascinating stuff. I cannot wait to see the next report you guys do on specific sports. But on behalf of LakePoint Sports, the premier youth sports destination, you got to make a trip down there, guys. It is an incredible facility. We thank you so much for watching and hope you learned something today.
Kelsey, thanks so much. Appreciate it and happy to be involved. And we'll see you down there in a handful of months.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Doug.
you. Bye.